know death. He's got many faces. I look forward to seeing this one.
Je me souviens, on entrait dans le rock comme dans une cathédrale. On écoutait de la musique. C'était la dernière aventure du monde civilisé.
From the final season of Game of Thrones to a series about female assassins, welcome to Encore's show on all the latest on the small screen. Dheepthika Laurent is here to take us through it all. Dipti, hello.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Now, it's the end of an era. The last season of Game of Thrones is set to screen on HBO.
That's right, and that last season is shrouded in secrecy. We do know, though, it'll be a season that featuring only 6 episodes, so relatively shorter compared to the previous seasons. It is shorter, but HBO says the episodes will be movie-length episodes, so they're almost mini movies in itself. The cult TV show, of course, is based on the books by George Martin, but the showrunners moved past his books at the end of season 5. So really, this season we'll finally know the answers to our burning questions like who'll rule Westeros, who'll win the Iron Throne. Take a look.
They're coming. Our enemy doesn't tire, doesn't stop, doesn't feel.
I totally can't wait till this comes out. Game of Thrones is much more than a show. It's a relic of popular culture now, and it unites different generations and cultures together.
That's right, and that's what makes it so endearing. Game of Thrones might be a medieval series, but it's got these sweeping storylines. You know, there's these plot twists and themes of family, revenge, betrayal, honor, and love that are very much things that resonate with our society today, and that's what really gives it that universal importance. It's also one of the first fantasy series that gave women dominant roles. In fact, we spoke to a French author. He's called Nicolas Allard. He wrote a book on the show's significance to pop culture and tells us why it's so iconic.
I think that Game of Thrones benefited from this culture of spoilers. It's one of the first shows in which they're afraid of storylines being leaked because the plot twists are so important to the show. Game of Thrones ultimately belongs to an era that is disappearing. Our ways of consuming TV are changing. Streaming platforms are multiplying everywhere.
I can remember the shock in the first season when someone very important died and no one is safe. Now, the anticipation has been feverish ahead of this, the last season, something that HBO has really been capitalising on.
Well, it's a mark of a cult show, isn't it? I mean, Game of Thrones has spawned conventions, games, attracted throngs of tourists to countries where the show was filmed, like Spain, Croatia and Morocco, for instance. In fact, HBO organised a worldwide treasure hunt ahead of this season where they hid 6 Iron Thrones. 5 of them have already been found, as you see fans posting their pictures on Twitter. They were found in the UK, Brazil, Spain, Sweden and Canada. The bookies have also been very busy taking online bets from anything from who'll say the first line in the first episode to who will ultimately win the Iron Throne. We thought we might put those questions to our colleagues here at France 24. Take a look at their predictions.
Who's not going to die? That's the question.
I actually think that Jon Snow is going to die.
Daenerys.
Daenerys.
Sansa qui va mourir en première. I think she did a lot of bad things.
Is Arya Stark still alive?
Ils meurent tous.
Well, I guess it's pretty obvious.
I think Jon Snow will eventually get on the Iron Throne.
Jon Snow?
I don't believe they're going to put Jon Snow or Daenerys on the throne because it's too obvious.
Khaleesi, la mère des dragons.
She's the mother of dragons. She's amazing.
It's exciting. Game of Thrones will be out on the 15th of April. Now, here in France, Romain Duris is starring in a new French series, which is called Vernon Subutex, and it's produced by Canal+.
That's right. He plays Vernon Subutex. He's washed-up 40-something guy pining for his heyday back in the 90s when he was running a vinyl disc shop. He's just been evicted and is couch surfing with friends when his old friend and rock star Alex Bleach overdoses, leaving behind in Subutex's possession a set of confessional tapes. Those tapes make him a wanted man.
Now, the show is actually an adaptation of a series of books of the same name by a French author called Virginie Despentes. Now, in some ways, this reminds me a bit of a French High Fidelity, but in series form.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, this is actually a fairly liberal interpretation of Virginie Despentes' books. France 24 actually caught up with Romain Duris last year after filming on the show had wrapped up. He tells us more about his character.
Et c'est vrai que ce personnage est assez...
For me, it was a true journey because he starts in one place, a world with lots of music, where he's a record shop owner, and ends up alone on a bench with an idea that inspires a lot of people. He becomes Christ-like.
Now, I've watched a bit of it. I'm not sure about this series, to be honest. I don't love the character, but Romain Duris is almost perfect for the role, isn't he?
He is, because he was a star of hit films in the 90s, like the foreign student movie L'Auberge Espagnole, or known as The Spanish Apartment. Here in France, he was in a cult French film called Le Péril Jeune, about friends growing up together in the 90s. He's also had an illustrious film career, but this is the first time he's heading to the small screen. You know, Subutex is very much an anti-hero. He's arrogant, he's self-serving, he's a bit of a jerk, to be honest. I found the series set up the storyline really well. There was a good suspense. It just got a little slow, a bit dull towards the middle. It's still well worth watching. It's a very French show. It's filmed in the hippest Paris neighborhoods, and the music is incredible. You have these long track shots of Subutex where he's walking, listening to music, plunging us back into the 90s with groups like Sonic Youth and Jesus and Mary Chain.
Certainly a good soundtrack to that. Now, the much-awaited season 2 of Killing Eve on BBC America has begun. Now, this female spy thriller show was named the best newcomer by the TV Critics Association last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And Sandra Oh of Grey's Anatomy fame actually netted not just the Screen Actors Guild Award, but a Golden Globe as well for her role. She plays Eve Palastri, an MI5 agent who becomes obsessed with her target, a female Russian assassin known as Villanelle, who's played by Jodie Comer. The show is actually based on an ebook series that became this novel, a fictional book written in 2018 by Luke Jennings called Codename Villanelle. Season 1 sees Palastri chasing Villanelle all across Europe. Season 2 picks up right where we left off, literally 30 seconds later. Take a look.
Why are you and Villanelle so interested in each other?
It's oh so still.
She's instinctive and it's flamboyant.
And so peaceful.
Wow, you look amazing. Can I take a picture of you for my Instagram?
No, of course not. Get a real life.
If she's alive, you need to find her.
This is out of control.
It feels like I'm losing my mind a little bit.
It's about time we had a female assassin, isn't it? For you, though, the female assassin, Jodie Comer, is the real star of the show.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I love Sandra Oh. She's great. She plays a sort of very sharp but bumbling secret agent. But Jodie Comer, she's a real standout star. She takes on multiple accents and multiple languages. They're not always on point, but they're pretty good nonetheless. And not often I have these laugh-out-loud moments in a show about assassins, but she's got epic eye rolls, this wide-eyed vulnerability and biting one-liners that really make her terrifying and hilarious in equal parts. Some might find those moments of dark comedy a bit flippant, but for me, it's what sets the show apart.
So is Series 2 worth watching?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I thought Season 1's ending could have been a great series and finale, actually, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Season 2 lacks the magic, perhaps, of the first season, because now we're familiar with these two characters, but there is a plot twist early on that's juicy enough to keep us going for the second season, and the show has not lost any of its dark sick sense of humor. If anything, you can expect a lot more of that in Season 2.
And we've just learned, actually, that good news for fans, Killing Eve has been renewed for a third season. So that's great if you're a fan of this series. Now, the French actor and comedian Gad Elmaleh is launching his first sitcom in English on Netflix, and it's called Huge in France.
Yeah, Netflix is banking big on the Franco-Moroccan actor who's a big star here in France, but was relatively unknown to the foreign audience until he moved to the US and started doing stand-up shows in English there. In Huge in France, he plays himself trying to reconnect with his son and adjust to the US, where nobody knows who he is and nobody really cares. Look, Gad Elmaleh, he's a funny guy. He's got charisma that you can definitely see that. The whole Frenchman in America thing, not entirely a novel idea, but I guess it's seductive enough. He's also very controversial. You remember earlier this year he was the target of plagiarism claims, accused of ripping material from comedians like George Carlin and Richard Pryor for his own stand-up shows. There is a risk that this becomes sort of a vanity project or a redemption project. I mean, Netflix did something similar with Idris Elba, who plays a down-and-out DJ in a show called Turn Up Charlie, which frankly I found a bit disappointing. So, I mean, I'll be watching Huge in France, but with a big grain of salt.
Well, I've watched some of it. Thank you very much, Dheepthika, and it didn't make me laugh out loud, I have to say.
There you go.
But you can judge for yourself. Let's leave you with a peek at that show, Huge in France, which is out this month on Netflix. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Jason Allen Ross, aren't you popular in, like, France or something?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's not the U.S.?
Exactly.
You know, that's it. I'm done with comedy. I walked away from it.
Good, because I hate comedy.
We don't do a lot of comedy around the house. It's a serious time in the world these days. Not a lot of room for laughter.
I can't let Jason Allen Ross raise my son. He worships this Jason guy. He waxes, he tans. How can I compete?
You got this. You got this, Luke!
Je regarde France 24 parce qu'en tant qu'étudiante en sciences politiques, ça me permet de rester à jour sur les informations dans le monde, sur les conflits, les débats politiques, tout ça.
الاختلاف بين فرنسا 24 والقنوات التانية في المحتوى المتنوع وفي التوجه الأقرب للحيادية.
I like their coverage, especially with the news and the politics, but also I like the cultural aspect because that, me as a Kenyan, I get to learn a lot about Francophone, Africa, Francophone in general, whether it's in Europe or here, just from France 24.
France 24 m'aide à voir une perspective plus complète du monde et à comprendre différentes langues et différentes cultures.
France 24, with you everywhere, all the time.